right, yeah, let's open it up for questions. If anyone has any burning questions. Or is there anything that I wasn't clear on or that was a little confusing as well?
Yeah, and I'll just jump back in. If you came in late and anyone has questions or anything for Amanda, you can just drop them in the chat and we'll read them out and have her answer them. Looks like
Will it just pop up for me? Oh, I see the chat now.
Yeah.
Got it.
We've got about 20 minutes left on the call, so we've got plenty of time if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, no question up there. No such thing as a stupid question. I do have a tendency to be very long-winded, so that's if nobody's asleep right now. Try to keep it concise and compelling for you guys. What got you interested in nutrition? Ooh, I like that one. Yeah, so if you guys want to open it up to what got you interested in nutrition, feel free to respond. I'll say my response is, yeah, I guess I got into fitness and I got into doing CrossFit about 7 years back. And so, you know, whenever you start asking a lot of your body and seeing, you know, how much it can do and wanting to feel good, nutrition plays a huge role in that. And like you guys heard, you know, you can't out-train a bad diet. So that would be my answer. Does anyone else want to go? Shane?
Yeah, I mean, similar story. I've been an athlete since high school and college days, or in college. So just always been trying to find the right ways to fuel my body and keep it balanced out with what I asked from it. So
you ran track, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And your wife runs too? Did she run track in
She's
school?
a cross country runner. Yep.
Okay, got you. Anyone else want to share? I have a question. Max amount of sugar you should have per day. So again, this is a good question. If you are basing your diet on mostly whole foods in their unprocessed form, you probably aren't going to need to worry about sugar intake too much, especially if you're active as well. Now, if you're going to be like Freely the banana girl, I don't know if that's like an old thing or if any of you guys know what I'm talking about. It's this chick, she's like raw vegan and only eats bananas. I think she eats like 30 bananas a day or something. She might have a sugar problem. But the general rule of thumb for sugar is it's the added sugars that you really want to watch out for. So again, we're not gonna eat perfectly. We are gonna eat processed foods, things that have that come in a box or a package and have a label to it. So a lot of those, on all of those nutrition labels, it'll tell you how many grams of added sugar it has. And so if you really want to find out, it takes a little bit of math, but they say that the upper limit, how much added sugar you should have a day for good health, is to keep it under 10% of your total calories should be coming from added sugar. Now, the thing is with natural sugars, I shouldn't say natural sugars, that could be confusing. Sugar that's naturally coming in fruit, when you're eating the actual fruit, not the fruit juice, not a product made from the fruit, but fruit or any kind of starch when you're eating it in its whole form. The sugar that's in that is gonna, any kind of insulin spike you would get from that is gonna be mitigated by the amount of fiber that's in the fruit, and it's gonna help you digest it slower. So that's why a lot of times if you're basing your diet off whole foods, you're typically not going to need to worry about overdoing it with sugar. The added sugars, keep it under 10% of your total calories per day. What are the most effective ways to ensure you get enough protein when you are vegetarian? So I'm going to assume that you mean vegetarian, not vegan. So vegetarian, there's obviously, there's a lot of good plant sources of protein. So vegetarian just means you're not eating meat, but you might still be open to eating things like eggs and dairy products, so on and so forth. So you can definitely meet your protein needs on a vegetarian or vegan diet. So you're gonna wanna focus on making sure you're getting things like beans and legumes, and especially whole grains, so like brown rice versus white rice, it's usually going to have more protein per serving. You might also want to consider, if you're a vegan or vegetarian, adding in a little bit of supplementation. So you're probably not going to have to go crazy with it, but just adding a shake every day. There are vegan protein shakes out there as well as non-vegan ones. The thing about plant sources of protein is that a lot of them, you guys will hear, like, they're not complete sources of protein. They don't have all the essential amino acids that we need to get through our diet. But if you combine different ones, you can end up with all of those essential amino acids. Now, I think soy products have all 9 essential amino acids. But with any kind of plant protein source, the other thing you have to think about is what they call bioavailability, which is just a fancy word for like how much of that nutrient your body can actually extract from the food and use. And typically, I mean, I couldn't tell you a specific percentage here, but plant proteins have a lower bioavailability than animal proteins do. So if you're open to having any sort of animal products, even if you're not going to eat meat, you could consider doing supplementing with whey protein. You want to think about something, a protein powder that doesn't have a ton of like gross fillers in it. And you guys will be able to tell, you know, if you're looking at a bag of protein and it's got an ingredient list this big on it, and there's like corn syrup and a bunch of weird craziness, probably not the best option. But the cool thing is that even places like Walmart and Target now have like pretty decent protein powder options. What you want to look for, so if you're doing animal protein powder, there's whey and there's casein, and they both come from cow's milk. So casein protein is slow release. So sometimes people, if you're going to do casein protein, it's like, it's meant to be drank like right before you go to bed, because the thought is that you'll be able to stimulate muscle protein synthesis throughout the night because it's slow releasing, versus whey protein, which is what's probably going to be appropriate for most people, especially if you want to drink it after your workout or anytime during the day, because it's fast absorbed by your muscles. So what you want to look for with whey protein powder would be whey protein concentrate, whey protein isolate, or whey protein hydrolysate. Those are just 3 different forms. They vary in how much they're filtered. So whey protein concentrate, I think it's like 80% protein, and there's like a little bit of fat in it and maybe some carbs because it's coming from cow's milk, so it's got that lactose, so a little bit of sugar in it. Whey protein isolate is a little bit more filtered, so it's like 90% protein, so you're just getting a little bit more. It's usually a little more expensive. And then whey protein hydrolysate has added enzymes to it, which help increase its bioavailability and how fast and readily your muscles can absorb it. But that being said, if you want to go totally vegan, there are definitely plant sources out there, and there are definitely whole food sources, things like egg whites and dairy, yogurt, milk, things like that. Again, sorry, I'm super long-winded, guys. I try not to be, but let's see. Recommendation for a typical week of working out: cardio, weightlifting, resistance, etc. That's a good question. I think if you're first starting out, I think definitely 3 days a week. I think anything is better than nothing, of course. But if you're first starting out, I would say start with 3 non-consecutive days a week. I think another thing I'll link to for you guys, since the gym's been closed with all this COVID stuff, we've been putting out home workouts every day. So I'll go ahead and link to some of those workouts that has some instructional like demo videos to go with it. You don't need a lot of equipment. Sometimes you don't need any equipment, or maybe just need like 1 dumbbell or what have you. As far as cardio goes, that can be, so with home workouts and with doing body weight training, there's a way that you can kind of combine those things together, which is a lot of what we do in CrossFit. So typically we'll have like our weightlifting portion of the workout, and then we have what we call our Metcon which is like the cardio piece, but there's also strength training within it. So that's really getting like a lot of bang for your buck in terms of like how much time and energy you're putting into it. So if you can combine those two things, like doing like high intensity interval training or doing like circuits of different body weight movements and stuff, that's a really good effective way if you're just starting out to kind of combine everything, so you don't get stuck in that like paralysis by analysis, like, oh, is it a cardio day, is it a strength training day? But obviously if you are wanting to get into weight training, and you want to do that form of resistance training and you're brand new to it, I would suggest either like enlisting a friend, someone who's pretty experienced with lifting weights, because I feel like we all know somebody, or when the gyms open back up, going and trying some classes, just getting some instruction on that stuff. When it comes to actually lifting weights and using barbells and things like that, you really want to make sure that you're using the right form with that stuff, or else you're just gonna not be doing yourself any favors lifting with bad form. So definitely I would say, like what we tend to do at the gym is we have 5 like strenuous workouts per week, and then we have one day that's kind of like an active recovery day. It's basically, we call it like aerobic capacity, where we just do some light jogging or some plank holds or some kind of core work, and then the 7th day of the week we just consider a full rest day. So it's always good to be active throughout your day, but it is good to incorporate those rest days and those easier days as well.